So yeah, so what is Edge Animate? Edge Animate is a computer application program which is multi-platform, created by Adobe to help you develop animated and interactive content that can be embedded in a website or can be played in mobile devices because it is based on HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript. Unlike Flash, that requires a plugin and requires to be written in a ActionScript 3. It was intended at one time, I suppose, to replace Flash, and although it still needs more functionality to reach that goal, it is well on its way. What I want to do with this little video is introduce you to Edge Animate. So let's take a look at some websites that display Edge Animate compositions. So here is an example of a website that displays an Edge animated and responsive composition that was created by Sarah Hunt. This was created some time ago, so it doesn't use yet the new feature that Edge now has, which allows you to create responsive designs right there inside of Edge. She had to write some code to make it responsive. But anyway, notice the beautiful colors in the background as they change and they shift. Let me refresh this website so that you can see it from the beginning. Notice the clouds are scrolling to the left or sliding to the left, and then they also slide to the right as they move back. Notice the color in the background, how it shifts from a beautiful pink, like sunset type, to daytime light green, beautiful light green blue. It's the bird flying in the background across the stage, across the banner. And as you mouse over this composition, the clouds also respond, they move back and forth. Okay. As you mouse over the S, where there is a little image of a bird there, and you notice the hand that indicates that you can click. So let's click this bird and see what happens. So there it is. It flies away. Beautiful. This is so cool. I really love this site. Okay. There are many sites where you can see examples of Flash Animate. I included among some of those that I found myself here, but I'm sure you could find numerous of them simply by doing a simple Google search with samples of Edge Animate. But my favorite place is the Facebook page of Edge Animate. And to get to the Facebook page, you go to Facebook, you sign in. Okay, hold it a second. You go to Facebook, sign in, and then do a search for Edge Animate. This site has enormous amounts of resources and places where you can go check out some sites that are exhibiting Edge compositions, as well as many resources. I really recommend that you do a visit of this site. But then of course there's many others. Almost anywhere, YouTube, you can enter Edge Animate and you'll see number of videos, educational videos. Adobe TV also has many videos on Edge Animate. So with this, let's go back to Edge and look at it. So let me now briefly introduce you to the Edge Animate interface. When you launch the application, you will see on the right side a panel where you can do what is new. You can see what is new by clicking what's new. You can click getting started. You can click resources. Quiet has nothing in it. It's simply a blank. Okay, if you want that to be open, you can open that. I like the getting started because when I'm just beginning to learn Edge Animate, I did some of these lessons and they were very, very helpful. On the left, you see what is called recent files, which lets you pick the files that you've had open before or that you may have worked on before. Then you have here, you can open another file which is not necessarily recent. You can also create a new file or you can create from a template. Let's click create new. Okay. Now the interface of a program is nothing more than a set of windows, panels, commands, menu bar, and the tools that are necessary for you to do your work. It's very difficult to cover every single detail about the interface, and the interface is something that you learn little by little. So what I'm going to do is just give you a quick rundown of where most things are. Here on the left, at the very top, well, you have what is everybody knows is the menu bar, which has File, Edit, View, Modify, Timeline, Windows, and Help. Right after the window is the thing that you can move around. You will see the basic tools. You have the select tool, you have here the transformation tool, the clipping tool, the rectangle tool, round rectangle, the ellipse, the text tool, and then these two give you the color of the background of the object that you're creating with these tools. So, and here is a panel right below called Properties. Whatever element you have selected on the stage, which this is the stage, and you have a viewing area in the stage. Okay, whatever you have selected on the stage appears here in the Properties panel, listed with all the properties that you can animate. Then you have the stage, which is right here. I call the stage the area that is visible, but you can have something outside of the stage that you can work with. It's just not going to be visible. Then you have here the Elements panel. And the Elements panel is very interesting. It has a list of elements that you use normally described as elements because that's the way they are described in HTML. In HTML, you write your HTML with elements. So you have a div, then you can have an image, you can have a number of other things like a link and source and other like the piece and so on. Right below the Elements panel, you have a Library panel, and in the Library panel you have subpanels. Here is for the images, here is for symbols, fonts, audio, and scripts. And then finally you have another panel here on the far right called Lessons and Code. If you've already done most of your lessons and you're not interested in learning more from these lessons, you can dismiss this window by clicking the cross. And here is the code. Edge Animate comes with the ability to add code, so you can add code, which makes it much more powerful. Here below, you have the timeline. The timeline is composed into two parts. The part where it has a playhead, this slender, narrow line that you see here, red line with a yellow head, is the playhead. And the playhead you can move around. And the time is indicated at the top. Notice that it's based on seconds. See this double dot here, the colon, the 0 to the right indicates the minutes. These are the minutes. I'm sorry, the seconds, not the minutes, the seconds. These are the minutes. You can have up to 60 minutes. You have the seconds, and then you have the milliseconds, 1,000th of a second. So pretty detailed timeline. Here, this space right here is 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and so on. Okay. Now notice that you have a slide bar here at the bottom where you can make your seconds smaller so you can see more of them on the timeline. You can also, as you move a little further, you can see these spaces become more than seconds. They become 5 seconds. From here to here is 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and so on. And if you keep moving, it will show you minutes. Okay, and you probably won't be able to go up to an hour. It shows up to 25 minutes, but you can make your window larger and so on. Okay, where were we? Yes, we're in the timeline and we're moving this little slider. Okay, let's go back to where we were before. I want to see. Okay, here we have a scroll bar at the bottom where we can see more of the timeline. Okay. To the left of the timeline, this area right here, you're going to see a control buttons where it allows you to play your animation that will appear on the stage. Then you have this series of icons at the top here, this little red thing. It's called an auto keyframe. And this one is an auto transition. Then you have something called a toggle pin. And this one is the easing for motion or whatever animation you have. You can make the animation go faster or slower by changing this. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is disable these little buttons because they interfere with the early part of the learning, I think, in terms of understanding what animation is. Before you move on to utilize these little buttons, I think it's important to be able to do your animation by hand. So I'm going to disable them. I'll click them and it grays them out. Okay, right below there is this bar right here called Actions. And these actions allow you to put code on your timeline. I will discuss that a little later. And then below that you have these lanes where you can appear, where you will see the elements that you will add into the stage. The first one is the stage. And the stage now is selected. the stage is selected, you will notice that it appears in the Properties panel. Okay, so for now, that's all I'm going to say about the interface. What I'd like to do now is show you how to create a little slideshow. The type of slideshow where an image appears sliding across the stage. So that will come next. On my desktop, I have saved 3 images, JPEGs, that I have placed in a folder that I named Slider Demo 2. Inside of that folder, I placed a folder named Images. And then inside Images, I put my images. Okay? I did that so that when I return back to Edge Animate, I will try to save the new file that I opened in this folder with this folder, subfolder called Images, and I think that Edge Animate will recognize this folder and will put in here all the images that I import or that I want to import after that. Okay, so now that I'm here in Edge Animate, and this is the file that I had opened before, but I haven't named it and I haven't saved it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to save. Okay, I will go to Slider Demo 2 and I will name it Slider Demo 2. Slider Demo 2. Okay, notice that it already has the prefix .html, which means that it's an HTML page. So let's save. Okay, instantly Edge Animate placed the images in the image subpanel of the library. Notice that here are the images. Okay, now I'm going to modify my stage because I would like my stage to be long so that it will act like a banner. So over here it is the width, where I see here the properties of the stage. The width and the height are listed, and the width is 550 pixels wide. I would like it to be 900, so I'm going to click inside and enter 900. The height is 400. I'd like to make it 300, so I will enter 300. Okay, now I'm going to lower the percentage here with the eyeball here, the magnifying glass here, so that I can see the whole stage. Okay, I believe this would browser parent contain. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the background, about the stage, and about the stage properties. You have the option here to select a minimum width for the stage and a maximum width. I'd like the maximum width to be no more than 900, which is the one that I chose here. So I'm going to click here and click the none so that it will give me a number. Okay, now it gave me 900 pixels, and that's what I want. I can choose a minimum size tool, so in case I'm resizing the object, I don't want it to be smaller than, let's say, 450 or 480, I believe. So let me enter 480 here. Okay, 480, which is like the size of a phone, cell phone. I want the overflow to be hidden. That's the images that are on the outside, not to be shown. Okay, I want it autoplay. The composition class, that's the CSS designation, so that you can refer to the class and refer to the stage, and here is the name composition class. But if you don't like that name is automatically given by Edge, which includes a number. You can change it. Then here you have the option to choose center on stage. This is nice because you don't want your image to appear on the left or the right side of the page. You want it to appear in the center. And I like it to be horizontal center, not vertical center. So I pick horizontal. Then you have also responsive scaling, and this is a new feature, which is really important because it allows you to change the scale of the image as you are resizing the window. So in small windows it would appear small, and in big windows it would appear bigger. Okay, so here I choose for it to be both width and height, so that you can scale the width and scale the height. Okay, there are other things regarding the preloader, etc., but at this moment we're not going to get into those. Okay, now that I have chosen certain things that I want for my project, for the stage, I'm going to start now thinking about where I would like my images to appear. And what I want is the images to be just outside of the stage so that they move into the stage one by one. I can select the images from the images sub-panel in the library, or I can just right-click all of them, shift-click all of them, that selects all of them, and then move them all at the same time. And here I'm just going to place them at the very top. Okay, but just outside of the visible area of the stage. Notice that Sina, the little dog, appears at the top. Sina is the name of the first image, the image that appears on the top. And notice where they're listed. They're listed in 3 places now. They are listed in the images panel, they're listed in the elements panel, and they're listed here in the timeline. Each one of them has their own lane. Notice Sina is at the top, then the rooster, and then the chickens. You can rearrange the order of the images so that if you would like the rooster to be elsewhere, the chickens to be elsewhere, you can move them, but you move them in the elements panel. I'm going to choose the rooster here and move it to the bottom. Okay, so now I'm in this order. I want Sina at the top, then the chickens, then the rooster. So now here they appear in that order. Okay, in order to see the images that are underneath another one, you would have to close the eye. So I'm going to close the eyeball for Sina so that I can see the chickens, and then close the chickens so that I can see the rooster. Now here is the rooster, and I like the rooster to be the first one to slide into the stage. So sliding would be accomplished by an animation of the time of the position property of the images. Notice that when I click the rooster, the properties panel shows the properties of the rooster, and the rooster is listed at the top here. It is in a div. So it is an image, but it's also in a div, inside of a div. It's enclosed in its own div. And this div has these properties listed here. The one we're interested in is the position of the images. In the position of the images, you have here listed X and Y. I want the X to be animated. I want it to move across the stage, but only move in the X value of the position. The X value is the same as the left position. Right now, where I have it is at 900 pixels away from the left. The left is right here. The left of the stage is at 0 for X and 0 for Y. Okay, so the left of the position of an element is measured by the upper left corner of the image. The upper left corner of the stage is at 0, 0. But my image is at 900 for the left and 0 for the top. 900 for the left and 0 for the top. Okay, let's say a few words about how animation gets done. Animation gets accomplished by viewing a series of frames one at a time, and the computer flashes these frames in front of the user one after the other so fast that they cannot see, or it's very hard to distinguish one frame from the other, depending on the speed, of course, of how fast the frames are presented. For instance, if the speed is very slow, like 5 frames per second, they might be able to see each frame separately. But if the speed is like 30, which is, I think, what mine does, 30 frames per second, the computer, you won't be able to tell one frame from another. Okay. As I was saying before Patitas interrupted, an animation occurs when a frame is presented to the viewer one at a time really fast. Okay, and so each frame is a little bit different, and the difference appears as motion. So what we're gonna do here then is tell Edge Animate which frame is gonna change and when. First, I don't want anything to happen the first second of the animation, so I'm going to move my playhead all the way to the first second. This is the first second. Double dot or colon, here's my colon, 0, 1, that's 1 second. Or if you see the 1 followed by 3 zeros over here with a dot between them, that means 1,000 milliseconds. So this is 1,000 milliseconds. Okay, that's where I want the motion to start. So to do that, you select 2 frames, and I've selected this frame at this second. And you tell Edge Animate, I want you to start the animation at that second. So I'm going to put what is called a keyframe. Okay, you can do a keyframe in many different ways. In fact, on all these properties right here, you're going to notice this little diamond shape, little thing, diamond shape object. And those diamond shape tells you that you can add a keyframe for that. I'm sorry, there was another interruption. So we were talking about how to add a keyframe. To add a keyframe, then there are many ways, but the most common way that I like is by moving the playhead where I want the keyframe to appear and selecting the thing that I want to animate, in this case the rooster. Okay, then right click the playhead. And notice that you get something called Add Keyframe. So go down to Add Keyframe and then select what kind of keyframe. So there's more than one kind. And here you can add the left, the top, the rotate, the scale, the skew. You could do all kinds of things with this image. But what I want is just to move the left. So I'm going to click left. Okay? So when I do that, I get this little diamond shape thing, white diamond shape, on the timeline, located right on by the rooster, underneath the rooster. And then notice that it says left 900. The left position is at 900. Okay, and I like it to stay there for that frame. This keyframe indicates the beginning the beginning of my animation. Okay, now I need an ending to my animation, so I'm going to move my playhead to the number 2, to the number 2 second, or 1 second later. So I want my animation to last 1 second. And also add a keyframe. Excuse me. Sorry about that interruption. Let me repeat this. Okay, I move my playhead 1 second to the right. Okay, and added another keyframe by right clicking. Okay, so now that I have 2 keyframes, this is the beginning keyframe and this is the ending keyframe. And on this keyframe, I don't want the position of the rooster to be at 900. I would like it to be at 0, so I'm going to enter a 0. Why do I want it to be at 0? Because I want the image to appear right on top of the screen. So its position is measured 0 for X and 0 for Y. So it would be right on the stage, on the center of the stage. Okay? And now what I'm going to do is create a transition between those 2 keyframes. A transition is telling Edge Animate that you want Edge Animate to figure out how much change to allocate to each frame. It will be changing each frame very gradually. So there will be, let's say 30 frames. Each frame would be 1/30th of the change that you want. Since I want the change to be a sliding in effect of moving into the stage, and it will move quite a distance, of 900 pixels, then you can imagine each frame will be a little bit different. Okay? To add a transition between these 2 keyframes, I will right click the little triangular shape. Notice that it's now hollow. It's no longer a solid white diamond shaped thing. It's hollow because it detected a change from these other keyframes. So I'm going to right click and then click Create Transition. There are other ways to create a transition. You can do it with a timeline, I believe, in the timeline, once you select the keyframe you want. Okay. Another way that you can add a keyframe automatically is by having selected the auto transition. The auto transition automatically detects that it needs a transition, so it adds one for you immediately. Okay. But now you can do this by right clicking, and that gives you the place where you can add the transition. So now the transition has been added. That means that my rooster is animated. So let's look at it. Let's grab the playhead across from the beginning. At the very beginning, there's nothing on the stage. Nothing will be on the stage for 1 second. And then it begins to move in. Notice how I'm moving it slowly, and the rooster is moving in. And then at the end, it stops. Okay, now you can also play see, remember these little play buttons? I can click this play button and it will gradually, you can show, let me do it again. See, the rooster coming in. Okay. Oops. Okay. Very good. Now I'd like the rooster to stay on the stage for 3 seconds. So I'm going to move my playhead 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Here at the 5 second mark. And at this mark, I'd like to add another transition because now I'd like the rooster to move out. The rooster has been on the stage for 3 seconds and now I would like it to move out. So I will add another keyframe, and I can do it again by right clicking. It says add keyframe and then go down to left. Okay, Now that's the beginning keyframe, and at the beginning keyframe I don't want any change to occur, so I want it to stay there at 0. Okay, what I'm going to do is move it 1 second to the right, and I might have to move it a little further than what is shown on this on this window, but it'll show me the 1 second. I'll stop at 6 seconds. This is 6 seconds. Okay, so between 5 and 6 is 1 second. I want to add another keyframe there, so I will add keyframe left. Okay, so now I have the 2 keyframes, but at this keyframe I want a change. What do I want it to go? I want the rooster to go all the way to the left, outside of the stage, to be out of the way so that it's not visible anymore. So I want it to slide out. Okay, so how far do I want it to go? I want it to go to the other side of 0 where the measurements are negative. So I want it to be at 900, that'll put it outside completely, negative 900. So here where it says left, or over here where it says X, I can do the change. Either here on the timeline itself, or here in the properties panel. Okay, I will click in here and put a negative sign, a dash sign, and then 900. Okay, hit return, and now the rooster is on the other side. Okay, but if I want to transition, I have to right click and click and then select create transition, and see that gives you a transition. That little yellow bar that you see tells you you have changed the position of the rooster from 0 pixels to a negative 900 pixels. Alright, so now why don't we play what we have? Okay, so I'm gonna play it on, I can scrub or I can play. So I'm going to play, but let me move the stage so that I can see it. Okay, from the very beginning, from 0, let's play. Here comes the rooster stays for 3 seconds and then it moves out. Okay, now I want the chickens to do exactly the same thing, and the chickens are invisible right now. So let me click the eyeball for the chickens. The chickens are now, again, they are on the right side of the stage. I want them to move the same way as the rooster did. And in fact, I want them to move at the same time that the rooster was moving out. See, here's where the rooster was moving out. So I want them to move at that time and place. Okay, so here is the chickens. Chickens are selected. The chickens appear in the properties panel, and the chickens are indicated to be at the 900 pixels. Okay, I want the keyframe for the chickens, and so I'm going to right click and add keyframe left. Okay, I want no change to take place at this keyframe. This is a beginning keyframe. Most time you don't want any change to occur at the beginning. Okay, I want it to occur at the end. Okay, at the end keyframe, I will add another keyframe. Add keyframe left. Okay, so on this keyframe, I want the chickens to be at 0. Now notice that when it added the first keyframe, it put here left and the keyframe icon right here. Okay, so for that, the 900 that it chose here, I'm going to change it to 0. So enter 0 and click return. Now my image is right on top of the stage. The chickens are on top of the stage. I'll right click and say create transition. Okay, now notice that I've got the bar of the moving out for the rooster on the same place as the chickens moving in. The chickens are moving in and the rooster is moving out at the same time. So during that same second, there will be 2 actions going on. The rooster is moving out and the chickens are moving in. Notice how you can see the animation when I scrub. Okay, so now I'd like the chickens to be on the stage for 3 seconds. I will move my playhead another 3 seconds to the right. Okay, at the 9-second mark, that's where I want to add another keyframe for the chickens. Okay, now you learned that you can add a keyframe by right-clicking the playhead, but you can also add a keyframe right here where it says chickens, and on the left side of the listing of the chickens, right below the chickens is you see the word left and then the 0. Okay, I want that to be to stay at 0. I'm sorry. So I'm going to just add keyframe, and I will put a little. I click the keyframe icon right here. Okay, that automatically put a keyframe here. Now I will move my playhead 1 second to the right. Whoops, at the 10. Here is the 10. Okay, I will add another keyframe, and I will click again the little diamond shape icon. There you go. So now I have 2 keyframes, the beginning keyframe, ending keyframe. This one, the chickens are at 0, and this one are still at 0, but I want to change that to a negative. Oops, not yet. A negative. Here. A negative 900. Just like the rooster. Click return. Okay. Keyframe became hollow, so it indicates that it could use a transition. I right click it and click create transition. Okay, so now the chickens are moving out of the stage. Chickens are moving out of the stage. Okay, so at the same time that the chickens are moving out of the stage, I like the dog to move in. So now I'm going to make the dog visible. Here is the dog. Okay, Sina. So now I will add a keyframe for Sina at the same time that the chickens are moving out. So I will right click here, add keyframe left. Okay, so here's my keyframe. Okay, move the playhead to the right to the end of that second. Add another keyframe, I'll add it here, from here. Okay, now I want Sina to be at 0. So enter 0, click return, right click the hollow diamond and create transition. Okay, so now the dog is on the stage. Show the stage. Here it is. Okay, now I like the dog to stay there for 3 seconds, so I'll move it to the right. At the 13 seconds. Okay. Now add another keyframe. Okay. Now I like the dog to move out, just like the chickens moved out. I like the dog to move out. So I'm going to go 1 second later. Okay, this would be the 14. Oops, here. At the 14-second mark, add another keyframe, and I can add it right here or right here. Here is a keyframe for the left, or the X. Here is a keyframe for the left. Okay. Now I will change the position of the dog from 0 to a negative 900. So enter a minus 900. By the way, to enter a minus, you have to click the dash key, okay, and click return. So now the dog is on the left. It has exited the stage. So I'm going to right click and create a transition. Okay, so all my images have already slided in. I'm ready to play my animation, my slideshow. Okay, I can play it here inside of Edge Animate, Or what is even better, I can play it in a browser. So to do that, go to File, click File, and go down to Preview in Browser. And you can either do that or click or press the return, the command return key. The command return for Macintosh, or the control return for Windows. Okay, click here. Okay, and bring up your browser. Here's my browser. Let me refresh it so that I start all over again. Here we go. Here is the rooster. 3 seconds later. Now the chickens. 3 seconds. And now the dog. And we're done. But okay, and oh, the dog exited. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. And that's it. That's all it's gonna play, because I have not indicated that I want this to loop. To get it to loop, I have to add a little line of code, and it's very, very simple. Okay, at the end of the whole animation on the timeline, notice this bar right here at the top that says Actions. I would like to tell Edge Animate to return the playhead to the beginning. So I'm going to click this little icon that has 2 curly braces with a circle inside, solid circle inside. It's called a trigger. A trigger is nothing more than a line of code that is going to tell the timeline where to go from there. So I'm going to, once your timeline is in that position, it has to be in that position. You're going to put a trigger right there. So I will click the trigger, and it gives me a little icon here. And over here in the code window, okay, but let me bring the code, oops, the code window, lose the code window from there. Oh, all right, let me erase the code. Okay, what I'm going to do is double click again the little trigger. All right, now this is what I wanted. I wanted a separate window, a floating window. Okay, so here is my window, and here is where I can type in code. Okay, but I don't really have to do much typing. In fact, Edge Animate is ready to do the typing for me. Here at the top, notice that it says trigger at the 14,000 milliseconds. Means when the playhead reaches 14,000 milliseconds, you wanted to do something else. I wanted to play, and I wanted to play, of course, from the beginning or from somewhere at the beginning of the animation. So I'm going to say play from. Okay, and when I click the play from button, the action script, I'm sorry, this is the JavaScript that Edge Animate wrote for me, so I don't have to type anything. I don't even have to know any JavaScript. It typed it for me. Now the one thing I do have to know is what goes inside of these little parentheses. I need to tell where to go. To the 1000 milliseconds, to the 2000 milliseconds, to the 0 milliseconds. I could put a 0 here. I could put 1,000. So it already wrote 1,000 for me, so I'm going to leave it at 1,000. And now let's see what happens. So I'm going to leave it there. Remove the window. Okay. I'll bring back the browser. I will refresh the browser. Here is the refresh thing, and play it. Here comes the rooster. Here comes the chickens. Now the dog. Okay. Now the rooster. Now the chickens. Now the dog. And it will keep on playing forever. But you know what I don't like is that blank spot that It runs after the dog. Notice the dog runs, and then there is a blank stage, and then comes in the rooster. Okay, I don't like that, so I can change that very easily. And that's what I'm gonna deal with now. Okay, so how do I get rid of that blank stage? Okay, now remember that in order to have the rooster coming right behind the dog has just exited the stage right here at the end of the stage in Edge Animate. Okay, I want the rooster to come back and go on top of the dog just like I did here with the other ones. Okay, the rooster is not on top. The rooster is right here at the bottom, and it's at the negative 900. Well, I can change its position easily. Okay, what I like is to put another animation for the rooster, and I want the rooster to come in behind the dog. So I like the rooster to move to this position over here at the 900, not the negative 900. The negative 900 is way out there. Okay, so I will add a keyframe for the rooster. So here is the rooster. I will add the keyframe, and I can add it right here. Okay, and I don't want that to be 900. I want it to be, negative 900. I want it to be positive 900. So I will click in here and just enter 900. Okay, so now that puts the rooster on the left side of the stage. Okay, as the dog is exiting, notice the dog is exiting. At the end of that second, I want the rooster again to be at 0, 0. So I'm going to again add another keyframe. And here I'm going to put a 0 for X for the left position. Okay, now I need a transition between those two hollow points. Okay, so I'll right click the one on the right because the one on the right is the last keyframe. That's the ending keyframe, and this is the beginning keyframe. Right click and create transition. Notice that this one was also hollow. It's hollow because it had changed from where the rooster was before. Before, if you click here, the playhead right here shows that the rooster is at the negative 900, and it says here suddenly it's changed to a positive 900. So that's why it's hollow. Okay, because there has been a change. Okay, so now the rooster follows the dog right immediately. Okay, so now let's see, after that change took place, let me play again the animation from the start. I will do it by refreshing the browser. Here comes the rooster, 3 seconds later. The chickens, 3 seconds later. The dog, 3 seconds later. The rooster again, and then the rooster again. And do you know why? I don't like that. The reason is because I had put here 1000. Remember the 1000 that we typed in on the trigger? Let me double click the trigger mark again. Bring back the code panel. And here where I put 1000, it is repeating the same sliding in of the rooster. The rooster was sliding in at 1000. It stopped at 2000. So that's where I wanted to repeat. So let me enter a 2000 here. Okay, so now let's see what happens. Alright, let's play again. Let's refresh. Okay, here is the rooster. Then comes the chickens. Then comes the dog. Now the rooster. Now the chickens. Now the dog. And so on and so on. This will repeat forever. And we're done. This demo slideshow is pretty much complete. It has some basic functionality, although it does not have yet any interactivity. By that I mean, that the user has no control of the slideshow. In the next video, I would like to add navigation buttons and show you how to add simple code to accomplish that. Thank you for your patience, staying with me up to this point and putting up with Patita's noise in the background. I hope this helps you learn a little bit more about Edge.